Hello fellow Mega Tennists! So I've recently uncovered the channel PatMac, and this video is very much inspired by the things they do there. They collect merch, they talk about the history of merch, they just do all cool things regarding merch. Specifically, their videos that I like the most are the ones involving Sonic and the Sonic plushes. Go ahead and give them a watch, I'll leave them in the description below. Without further ado, this video is about Jack Frost plushes. So, say you want to get into the Mega 10 franchise and you played Persona 5 or maybe another Bible and you want to buy some merch. So, you love Jack Frost because naturally you do. You want to go grab those Hee-Ho Jack Frost plushes, but you're wondering, what other plushes exist? Welcome my friends to the Collector's Compendium. Jack Frost has been the mascot for Atlas for as long as I can remember, used in promotion all the time, and he's the face of the print club as well as just being an all-around cute boy. Ever since his redesign into Digital Devil Story's rebirth as Shin Megami Tensei, we've seen quite a bit of merchandise made of this cute little baby. But man, there's some wild variations in his plushes. So what's the oldest Jack Frost plush? That's really hard to say. The oldest I found was released 8 years after Shin Megami Tensei 1. And I'm willing to accept that there's possibly older plushies out there, but I haven't found them currently. This first series of plushes is called the Jack Frost plush set. I call it that because the logo says Jack Frost. This is a 3 plush set. This plush set includes a snowboard themed Frost, a curved hat Frost, and a wavy hat Frost. These 3 were found in arcades in Japan in the early 00s. All 3 are stuffed with beans or beads, and that affects the weight and the way the shape of the body is formed. I don't see any identifying marks, so unfortunately we don't know who made these, as there's no credits on the tags or anywhere else, and I just can't confidently say who did these. But let's talk about the designs and build. The Snowboard Frost seems to be based on this design. The casual fan might think this is a SBK Snowboard Kids design, but actually it predates that game. This is likely meant to be related to the Snowboard mobile game. Yes, there is a Jack Frost mobile game where he snowboards. The game itself and any images are lost to time, but there's a scant bit of evidence to confirm that it did exist. The proportions are spot on in terms of details. The yellow smiley face is placed accurately, but there are no lines featured on this variation of the hat. This one here fits the hat a little oddly. I think the brim just needed to be a little bit bigger. There's also a bit of oblong shaping in the head, which you'll see is pretty common among all the Jack Frost plushes. Most of the plush is well stuffed and appears soft. The collar and smiley face are melted felt, and the shoes are made of a separate material and stitched on, which I think is a nice touch. The only other complaint I have is there's a seam between the legs that's pretty visible. The other 2 are made with the same bodies, but the hat are distinctly different. One has a long singular curl with the bells or palms at the end of each point in the collar, and the other has a few curls in the hat with, yeah, you get the picture, no bells or palms. The attention to detail is quite nice when comparing the plushes to art from that time, and the beans mean that the sitting pose looks a little natural, more natural than you will see in later plushes. This set is pretty rare, but listings generally tend to be around $40 to $60, sold on websites like Mandarake, which is an auction and just purchase site, so a combination of like eBay and Amazon. The next line is a deviation. This is the Banpresto Devil Children set, released in 2001 and features Cool the Cerberus, Vale the Griffin, Sandman, Nekomata, and most importantly, Petite Frost. I only have 2 of these from this set, but this set was also a UFO prize set. And like the previous ones, the quality is pretty high. Since this is a video dedicated to Frost, I'm gonna focus on Petite Frost alone though. The plush bases itself off the official art for Petite Frost, and it is great. This boy has all the details down, and cool enough, it stands on its own. The tush tag and paper tag are far too big in my opinion. It has a yellow hangstrings on its head. The collar and smiley face here are also again made of felt. The mouths seem to have this weird habit of being uneven at times, and I think this is what makes it look just a little bit odd. I think the only real gripe I have though is that the way the hat is designed, the back shows way too much of the back of the head, meaning you can't really pose it from any other angle besides the front angle. But again, this is a UFO prize, so I shouldn't be so picky. The plushies in this set are pretty rare. I've never ever seen the Nekomata listed, but the rest of the set generally goes for $50 to $60, and that's how much I paid for my petite boy. Now, let's look at the first sold plushies. This 4 plush set was released sometime between 2001 and 2002. I call these the big set because the tag says big stuffed toys on them. This was originally sold at Atlas arcades such as Game Panic and Move Continent, which is a topic for a whole nother video. 2 of the figures in this set stand on their own, which is just amazing. And there's 2 seated ones as well. These are about 40 centimeters tall or 15 inches. Let's take a look at the sitting plushes first. Like the previous plushes, the build quality is top notch. Although in the head, you can see the seam line and the same thing between the legs. The proportions are pretty decent in the head and body, but the arms just look a little too short. The art it's built off of seems to be the one we see on the paper tag, which it's a pretty nice paper tag. The text says Shin Megami Tensei Jack Frost Big Plush Doll, and they seem quite well made. The only issue I've seen is the palms tend to fall off pretty easy, as many that I've seen sold online have this issue. The way the shoes are made is kind of unusual since the bottom of the shoe is overstuffed, so it makes the bottom rounded. The mouth is also pretty oversized, and I think the teeth are somewhat off model too. The boots aren't exactly faithful, and the yellow band at the top are hugging the legs a little too tight, especially if you compare it to the art featured on the tag. One of the seated Frost seems to have his hand up, emulating the paper tag, or maybe it's just trying to do that classic Frost pose, but I think I prefer the one where both arms are resting. The hands themselves leave something to be desired, as you can see by the, I guess, lackluster stitching and the way their size is a little off, I think, which is a theme for most of the Jack Frost plushes we'll look at. So with all these things considered, these are still nice. However, I love the standing plushes. Standing plushes are such a novel idea for me, and mostly because it just lends itself to posability, and I'm a sucker for really dumb gimmicks, standing for a plush being one of those dumb gimmicks. The standing froshes are essentially the same pattern as we see in the sitting ones, with some wire used to assist in the standing and posability. The hand up model being the one we see in the paper tag, for sure, without a doubt, and I think that one's pretty good. Smaller arms here are just a letdown here more than in the sitting frost pose, and I think that that's just one of the things you have to sacrifice in order to have it stand, so I guess if you had to choose between sitting with T-Rex arms and standing with T-Rex arms, I guess I gotta go standing. These ones aren't spectacularly rare, having shown up on Japanese sites like Mandarake and a few others, you know, year round, and they typically sell for $50 to $100 there. On places like eBay, you'll see them being sold for $100 to $400. Like I said, the palms are typically the part to worry about, as they usually go missing. The sitting ones definitely seem to be way more abundant, so grab those if you want, but do not pay those eBay prices. Next up is a weird one. I'm not quite sure of the specific timeline, but I know that there was a Jack Frost plush released in Tokyo Game Show 2002 with a slew of other amazing Jack Frost merch. From a key holder to a clear Jack Frost statuette to a piggy bank, it was a wild time for collecting merch. This design is probably very close to the rare boy we got a year later, Black Frost. Both are pretty interesting, but since I don't have a definitive photo of that Jack, I will just focus on the Black Frost. It's very well made. I think this design is based heavily on the Big Frost, and this one does things just a little bit different. There's no palms, the face is essentially identical, and so is the body, but the arms are a little longer. The eyes of the Black Frost are closer together than the Jack Frost one, and unfortunately, since it seems to be the same pattern, it doesn't have the claws that Black Frost should. Though his smiley face is art accurate, and I appreciate that. He also doesn't have the pointed shoes, and that's another gripe, but again, it's probably using the same pattern as the original 2002 release. He's a well-stuffed plush as well. The 2002 Frost won't come easy, as the tush tag will be the only identifying mark. All you have to do is check the copyright to see if it says 2002 or 2003 on the plush, and that will be the TGS Frost. Black Frost for this time is actually pretty rare, though now listings exist online from time to time, some selling for amazingly low prices, like mine, which I paid for about 30 bucks, and it's worth every penny. Funny to note, these plushes were originally sold for only 1,500 yen, which is about 12 bucks. Now is where we start to get to meme territory. In 2008, we got another new Frost variant plush, Raiho. With the release of Raiho 2, we saw a nice little plush of the game-specific Frost variant. This was released as a pre-order bonus in Japan and as part of the collector's edition in the West. This plush has a lot of wins. First, the proportions are super art accurate, probably the most accurate so far on the plush timeline. The build quality is quite nice for what it was. The shoes are still a little rounded on the bottom, which is a little pet peeve for me. The ribbons being made of ribbon is actually a nice touch, and the cape is really tiny, and that's just like the game model and the actual art we know of Raiho. All in all, it's a really well made plush. I have 3 of them. One has imperfect embroidery, which I really love. Another is super dirty because that's the one that my girlfriend gave me as part of my collector's edition when the game first came out. Funny thing about this plush is that Atlas played an April Fool's Day joke where they said that a bunch of pirates had stolen a lot of these Raiho plushes, and when I first started doing trivia, I actually thought that was a real story. Try not to pay more than $50 for this plush because it's not overly rare, but it's really cute and very well made. Next is one of the most infamous memes, the dress up Frost, or the naked Frost. Amazingly, there's 3 versions, Jack, Black, and Raiho, with the bodies of the Jack and Raiho being exactly the same, but the clothes are quite different. This was sold directly through Atlas's old D-Shop by the company themselves, made by Movic, another company that's partnered with Atlas in the past, and these only retailed for 3,150 yen, which is about 27 bucks. Movic has also produced other great plushes, including this Aegis talking plush and this Koromaru keychain. They aren't very big, and honestly, I don't think they capture any Jack Frost variants particularly well. They do capture the tail pretty well though. Paper tag simply states Jack Frost and plush toy on the back, and it's in a card format where the inside is just blank. I'm not sure the function of that, but it's there. The clothes connect using Velcro, and the parts I noticed where they have Velcro tend to be a little off color. I think that's discoloration due to age though. I can't say I love this plush, but it certainly has a lot of charm. Jack has his palms again, and haven't seen any missing palms on these, so if you do get one, you'll probably not find one missing. So I think that these ones are just a little more secure than the Big Frost. Black Frost stands out as the best of the bunch in my opinion. I think it just works a bit better. A piece used in the hat is nice, although both Jack and Black are missing the face at the center of their hats. Raiho is also interesting. He's pretty unusual too. His cape doesn't match the one from the game. It's more of the full body cape that we see Raido actually use. Like with the Raido 2 plush, nothing is in this plush to help things with the hat maintain its shape, but overall it's quite nice. As for buying them, they are pretty rare, which prices that vary wildly. I bought mine for $30, but I've seen them sell for $150. I've seen sets sell for $150, and I even saw this weird bundle where it was 3 completely wrapped up new with a Black Frost plush from Tokyo Game Show 2003. Our next is the Tokyo Game Show re-release Jack Frost. This one is probably identical to the 2002 release from what I can tell, though I'm assuming the materials were less high quality. As comparing it to my Black Frost, there's just a general low quality that can be discerned. I can't really say much about it that I haven't already said for Black Frost. Atlas re-released this in 2016 to 2017, with it even being exported to the West at Anime Expo 2017, being sold at a whopping $45. It then went up on the now defunct Atlas West, then known as Atlas USA's web store. I have this plush. The only reason I love it though is when I went to Anime Expo in 2017, I realized I might not get it since by the time I made it all the way through the queue, there were hardly any left. Then the guy checking me out at the Atlas booth, a fellow named Singh who worked at Atlas, did me a solid, and he gave me the very last one. That memory is etched into my brain, as it is one of the nicest things I've ever experienced in general, which just sounds kind of sad saying it out loud. But I think that he's just a really good guy. I would later see him at other Atlas events, and I even painted him a Jack Frost as a thank you for that gesture. Now every time I see him, I have to take a picture because it's just a fun ritual that I love, because it's nice to see a Mega 10 fan who works at Atlas and is nice. Now we're entering the final stretch. There's quite a few pieces of the Jack Frost plush merch released from the years 2016 all the way to 2020. In 2017, we had the 25th anniversary for Shin Megami Tensei 1's release. As such, we got many interesting things, from a Chaos themed concert to a separate Law themed concert, the short Metrovania Synchronicity prologue, and this set of plushes. These were made by Sega, and they are interesting to say the least. This keychain plush set includes Jack Frost, Pyrojack, Alice, and amazingly Chiro from Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. That roster is interesting, and frankly, I thought I'd never see an official Chiro plush. But while the set is an interesting idea, how does it stack in actuality? Well, they are hit and miss. Chiro, my boy, is easily the worst in the set. He's simply a design resembling Chiro, printed out, cut, and sewn together with 2 pieces. His bow and arrow are made of felt, and they don't stay in shape easily. The print is quite nice, but since it looks like it lacks dimension because it's only flatly printed, it doesn't look high quality, marking the first time UFO machine plushies from Atlas have been lackluster. Alice is a lot better, still a simple doll format, but she has dimension because of her clothes. Made of an actually soft cloth material, the lace is a nice touch as well. The hair is made with felt, and so is the band holding the hair together. Her face is not my favorite though. Something about her chibi eyes are just not what I would have chosen for her design, but it's always nice to see more Alice merch. Power Jack is easily my favorite from the set. Accurate colors, the same cheap construction, but it doesn't feel that weird. The drawstrings in front of Pyro are printed on though, which I think is a little weird, and it makes it lose that dimensionality and also look cheaper. His face, I think, is perfect for this single print sort of thing. I can't imagine any other criticism besides wishing his head was round and that they just didn't use that two-piece construction that we're seeing across the board here. His lantern is a flat print, and I think that one's okay. Now let's talk about the main event, Jack Frost. Sadly, this isn't my favorite in the set. Something I didn't mention with the previous plushes is how big the paper tag and tush tags are. They are so big it's distracting. I'm also not a fan of the ball and chain style keychains they used for this sort of thing. This one is built the same way as Chiro and Alice. It's two pieces stitched together and printed on with the face, with an additional felt glued to the top to be the hat. It's a thin piece of felt, so it doesn't ruin it, but it's missing the face. So many of the Jack Frost plushes skip that detail, and I don't know why. The collar is dependent on how stuffed the plush is. Mine is not that stuffed, so the collar just floats, and I think that doesn't look appealing. These were initially prizes in UFO machines, and they're fairly easy to win, as soon as they were announced, they were flooded into the Japanese market, initially selling for as low as $6, then kind of normalizing around $12, but nowadays they're a little rarer, and if you're trying to find them, usually you'll see them for as much as $30 to $50 a piece. Get these if you're a diehard collector, or if you love Chiro or Alice, but otherwise I would just pass. I'm gonna jump ahead in the timeline a bit to the 2019 Anime Expo Con exclusive, the Frost & Friends blind bag. These were plushes made by Atlas West, and boy are they something. So as the name implies, they are blind bags. This set includes Jack, Pyro, Black, and Raiho. The felt they use is actually a weirdly high quality. It actually feels better than most of the plush sets that use felt, and although that's a plus, unfortunately they vary in build quality. As I opened more than 7 to get the full set, the stitching tends to be a little loose, and worst of all, it's visible if you move the plush in any way, but I blame that as a result of it being so small. So that's just kind of a thing that comes with the territory. So things like the hats are only held on by a couple of threads, and that's kind of scary if you're using them as keychains. Pyro here is inaccurate color-wise. Unifying to one color might have just been a cost-cutting measure though, but they do take the tassels and actually make them tassels, which I really appreciate. The lantern again is printed onto felt, which isn't terrible looking given how the rest of these are and how tiny it is. Black Frost has the headpiece accurate to the shape. I love that they actually included the horns on the medallion, but I don't really blame them this time for not putting the face detail, as again, it's a really small plush. The eyes and mouth are embroidered and they look excellent. Black Frost's teeth are black though, but again, because they're small, they can't really go in and do this sort of minute details, so it sucks to not see them white, but it's fine. And lastly, his shoes aren't pointed, but that's probably because they use the same pattern for 3 of these. The only other complaint I have is the bands around the shoes are off color. They should at least match the medallion on his head, and they don't here. Raiho's hat is again loose because there's no wire running through, and I know that's a weird complaint, but it's not really valid this time because again, it's small, yada yada yada. The details for his outfit are pretty amazing though. Jack is probably the winner here. He's perfect. These proportions for the set are pretty cute, and with all my complaints, I'm glad they even just exist. Now, these initially sold at Anime Expo for $15 each, and they brought them to a few other small events in LA and even gave some out during Valentine's Day 2020, as you can see from my post here. I love this idea, and I really hope they make more of this type of merch more often for longtime fans. I was very sad though when I saw how little people cared for this set, and even worse, how much people were disappointed when they pulled Raiho because they didn't know who he was. I can't really say what a good price for these are given the rarity, but since the Alice West creation, you might just want to jump on it just for the novelty of that alone, but I wouldn't try to spend more than 20 bucks each. So Anime Expo had another amazing exclusive, and that was a cool partnership with Infinifan to bring together 2 Atlas plushes, Morgana and Jack Frost. The design here is reminiscent of the Tsum Tsum designs of Disney fame. This plush is pretty great. This plush is very soft and it has that super satisfying squeeze, so when you squish it, it slowly kind of unsquishes. The collar and hat are made out of felt, but it's a better quality felt than the other plushes that I talked about so far. The eyes are embroidered and the proportions are so nice. Bigger pupils really work for this body shape. Teeny weeny arms and teeny weeny legs, I appreciate, and the detail of the top and bottom of the shoes being different colors is nice. My only complaint is that the tail is really big. It seems that not to sit well with the rest of the design, but I love this Doughboy a lot. It's so cute and near perfect for a special adaptation of everyone's favorite fat, chunky Frost. Unlike the blind bags, these never showed up anywhere else outside of Anime Expo, so when you see them online, grab them. I personally think even $50 is a good price for these. It's so aesthetically pleasing and the quality is just really nice. One of my favorites so far. Now, here's the set I wanted to talk about most. Hee-Ho Jack Frost. In 2017, we saw a new style of Jack Frost in how he's represented. More pudgy, more merch friendly, reminiscent of like a Sanrio character. This was Hee-Ho Jack Frost. The first sales of this design were via Atlas Japan's merch site, the Atlas D shop, and it was amazing. The first things we saw were a very large plush, some tape, clear files, and totes, as well as Christmas themed tape, clear files, and totes, and many other amazing things. Later we got a plush coin purse, a plush pass, a keychain size figure. This was a great time to be a Jack Frost fan. The design even has its own website. We even got stuff in America before it premiered in Japan in some cases. Always at Anime Expo, such as the keychains that we see here. This set even got black frosted with sweet keychains, a large plush, and stationery. So enough gushing now, let's look at the plushes. These tend to have a fairly accurate representation of the art style that this Jack is depicted in, but the collars seem a little bit small on the large one. All the details are here. They even gave him the fabled smiley face on the hat, like I keep asking for, and this deviated by having a different sort of smiley face, but it's still really cute. This sort of Frost imagines the hat more like a helmet, so it doesn't have the little circles on the sides. The smile of these plushes tend to be a little bit odd on the bigger sizes because of how they're stuffed. The smaller sizes don't have that same issue though. The curly tendril things on the top of the hat don't exactly translate, but it's still a nice plush. These have a quality I think most of the Frost plushes tend to lack. It's a soft style, the pastel colors are nice, it's a more marketable design, and I think it's a really good direction. I mean, I hope we get more of this, but I don't want it to be the definitive style. We actually kind of already got more though, and that is the Sega released UFO plush series, featuring a different large plush, two smaller plushes, and a small black Frost plush. They seem to have gotten a little bit darker with the shade of blue they use for the hat, but I still think it looks great. The head is noticeably more flat from the side, and that reduces how much you can use different positions to display it. The collar is a bit larger, which I like. I really wanted to compare these to the other ones in person, but unfortunately I still haven't received my order, so that's unfortunate, but I really wanted to make this video, so I did it anyway. Anyway, the three smaller plushes go for 2 pieces of material stitched without stuffing the hat, and flat pieces for the tail and collar. This unfortunately is not a really good look, as it kind of just looks cheap. The back of the plushes tend to show their manufacturing, so you can see all the stitching, and it's just not a very good looking back. 2 of these are standing, being the Black Frost and Jack Frost. The same pose, same pattern. The embroidery on the faces is not very good, and while proportioned right, are off model. It's a shame because I really wanted to love these. The stitching for the standing ones have a really awkward line going down the middle, which tends to look unfortunate, but at least the proportions are solid. The sitting Frost is interesting as it somewhat resembles the big sitting Frost, and I like to think that it's a callback to that. I like that the hanging strings match in color with the hats. I'm bummed the tush tags and paper tags are way too big for this plush set, but it's most sad to see the way the legacy of the UFO Catcher Frosts have gone from such highs to just being okay. I do like them in a way, but they don't stand up to the large UFO Hee-Ho Jack Frost. While everything in the Hee-Ho Jack Frost set is super new, you can actually get them officially from Atlas Japan through their website, and I'd recommend grabbing all of them. I think it's worth paying for retail price, and the UFO Catcher Frosts are worth it too, even though I'm super critical of the manufacturing and the patterning of the small one. You can find them on websites like Mercari and Yahoo Auctions for under $30 for the whole set usually. And that's the history of Jack Frost plushies up to now. This was kind of something I've always wanted to talk about because I like talking about collecting. Anyway, what's your favorite Frost? I imagine most of the responses would be the meme Naked Frost. Overall, I'm quite happy with how this turned out. There was another one I neglected to mention, the Cushion Jack Frost face, and I didn't mention that one because I couldn't find any information on it besides someone saying they found it at arcade. So for all I know, it could be the oldest plush, but based on the way it looks, I think it's probably somewhere between early 2000s to late 2008. That's it for this one, and goodbye, fellow Megatenists.